Welcome. I'm so glad to see all of you joining us today for this very special town hall with our friends, Rash and Shilpa Shah. As you know, we're unable to actually see each of you, but please know that Dean Toole, Rash, Shilpa, and I can see your name, so rest assured, we do know that you're here, and we sincerely appreciate your support, and we very much look forward to your participation. Hopefully, many of you already know me, but if not, please feel free to reach out after the event. My name is Jennifer Hall, and I have the honor to serve as the Director of Development for the University of Toledo Foundation, where I work very closely with the College of Engineering. When we begin the town hall in just a few moments, you can freely communicate with us by using the chat box, which you should already be able to see on your screen. If you don't see it, just look at the bottom right corner of your screen and you should see a little chat icon. Once you click it, the chat panel will appear. This is how you will be able to submit questions directly to Rash, Shilpa, Dean Toole, and to me throughout the event. And finally, if you want to change the view on your screen, just head up to the right upper corner and you'll see an option to expand or reduce your screen. If you have any issues, just send a chat message to me at any point and I'll help you out. Okay, let's switch gears and get things started by turning things over to the Dean of the College of Engineering, Mike Toole.
Thanks, Jen. Good to see everybody. It's really a special event for me today because, as Jen said, Rash and Shilpa are dear friends of both the college and the University of Toledo region, which we'll cover, but also of Amy and me. So I guess the one example of that is I had a birthday recently, the end of September, and I'll tell you, it was a big one. It had a zero in it. I'm not going to tell you how many, but there's a zero in it. And Amy said, "Hey, how do you want to celebrate? Who you want to be with?" And I said, "Rash and Shilpa." And it wasn't just because I knew Rash would insist on buying me dinner, which he did, but we really had a nice dinner. So thank you again for that. So dear friends, you're going to hear about that. And we're going to cover their lives a little bit and their careers. And we're going to do a deep dive into the rail industry. So, okay, I'm a civil engineer, right? We get into transportation. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I think that what the information that Rash has in his head, the things he's accomplished, amazing, and some great stories. So with that, let me share first some news before we start with Rash and Shilpa. Let me share some news from campus. So if you don't mind, I'm going to do a little scene here. And you should see, Jen, do you see the screen here of the picture of UToledo News?
Yes.
Okay, so I put this one up. This was from UToledo News last week. I put this up because I love the picture. Dan Miller is our photographer. As people know him, he does wonderful things. And you can see, catch the glimpse of fall right in the air. You see the berries on the trees and leaves starting to change. And of course, beautiful U-Haul in the background. So I knew it was fall this morning. So Amy, my wife of 35 years, loves to get up in the morning. We both get up about 5:15, and she immediately gets out there in the dark and the cold and does her 5 miles of walking every day. And today, the first time, I'm like, it's like pretty cold. Maybe you put gloves on. So she wore gloves. That's a sign. But here's a better picture that shows it's fall season. And that is Scott Malter, my friend and a senior associate dean, somebody I rely so much on. Talk about obsessed. Scott rides his bike pretty much year round, all the time. He tends to avoid the rain, but not always. Anyway, it's cold today. And I wanted to show you because look at this crazy thing he's got here. Talk about innovation. So look at these in the black things. You're like, are those some kind of wings, aerodynamic? No, that's to put your hands in, and then you grab the handlebars so they're like permanent mitts. So he's going to go and ride this thing all winter long, or at least a good chunk, looking like this. So anybody who's content looking like this and dressed as he is, he's pretty serious about his biking. So Scott, I hope you don't mind me having a little laugh at your expense, but I did get his permission to do that. And I promise I won't post it on LinkedIn or Facebook, especially since I'm not on Facebook. Anyway, on a little more serious themes, I wanted to let you know, people are wondering what's going on campus. Well, we're back, as I mentioned in my previous town hall. We're back in a big way. Things are going very well. I checked with Associate Dean Matt Franchetti today, who was our representative for the whole COVID thing, and still very few cases. I think we've had, less than a couple hundred on campus since the semester started, and much less than that, I think. And in the College of Engineering, we've had like low 20s, and we're doing the right things, all the protocols. So that's all good. But you know what? It's a challenging semester still. We still got people who don't want to wear masks, need to be reminded about masks. That's just part of our jobs. But I knew it was going to be a challenging semester. So I just wanted to share a couple things. This is a slide deck that I showed my direct reports. And that is the 6 department chairs. You know some of them. You'll see some pictures of them in a minute, as well as my 4 associate deans. And then we've got, don't forget, the College of Engineering, the largest college on campus. Of course, we have a business manager. We have a communications person, Diana Van Winkle. We have a computing staff led by Jonathan Rethorn. We have a industrial testing, so we've got lots of staff. And so this is the things that I shared with them just very quickly, not to get too somber on you, but still we're dealing with this pandemic. There's no doubt about it. Here in Lucas County, I think we had something like 178 new cases yesterday. No, 153. It's kind of going up and down, still high enough that we have to wear indoor masks at UToledo. That's the policy. So between the pandemic and this shift to RCM, and you say, what the heck is RCM? Responsibility-centered management, and you can Google that if you want afterwards. It's the whole idea of, I guess now we're calling it maybe incentive-based budgeting. And it's the way is rather than just the CFO says, here's your money, here's what you're going to get, or the provost. Instead, it's all dependent on what are our revenues from tuition, enrollment, grants, philanthropy, and then what are our expenses? And each dean now is going to have to manage those expenses like a profit center. And of course, you're like, shouldn't that be the way it is? And yes, it is the way it should be, but UToledo's never been that. So we're shifting to this. It's a big shift. It's lots of things are going to change. But I'm excited about it. And this is one of the initiatives that our president, Gregory Postal, has brought to the campus. And so we're excited for his leadership. By the way, he's invested as the president earlier this month, which was a really neat ceremony here on campus. In fact, right in Nitschke Hall. So anyway, but this is one of the things. So lots of uncertainty, lots of turbulence or volatility. And so I just wanted to remind my direct reports and the other leaders in the college that, you know what, this is our chance to move forward. Be proactive. Collaborate with each other. Don't think because sometimes we're a little bit more remote or something, we can't do collaboration. Frankly, we need patience and understanding, a little grace to get through this, but communication is going to be the key to all of it. So I've tried to do that throughout this whole pandemic. I think it's worked pretty well. And so I just wanted to share that with you. And I wanted to say, always be upbeat because we are moving forward this semester. And I said this at the beginning of the semester, and we continue to do it. In lots of areas of our mission, right? In teaching, we launch careers. In our research, I'll share a little news on that. Our service to the community, our service to each other, trying to get enrollment back up to where it needs to be, and just building that sense of community. Right now, the College of Engineering, I will say with just a little bit of bias, but I think it's true, this is where so many people want to be. We have so many folks that come from other colleges, other departments, and they like to come to engineering because we just are doing some neat things, and we have our act together, and we're a great community. So now just sharing with that some news that some of you might have caught. So my colleague in chemical engineering, Sridhar Vyamajala, just got a nice 3.2 million grant to advance. Has done some great research on using algae to create biofuels. Really a world-class expert in this area. And the Department of Energy just awarded him yet another grant in this area. So very proud of what Sridhar is doing. That was one story, and you can Google all these afterwards if you like. Our students collaborating with our faculty. So here's Chair of the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, Dr. Daphne Poole, and she's been doing some neat things with students in lots of places around the world. And here she's doing it right here in UToledo with a kind of a trash collection analysis project that she's got that was funded. So appreciate the neat things that our students are doing. Anytime you get out in the field, I think you're going to learn something, and it's happened with these students. Another one was Dr. Mohammed Elahania, chair, I think, for 3 or 4 years now of our largest department, in fact, largest department on campus, the Department of Mechanical, Industrial, and Manufacturing Engineering. Dr. Elahania is a very prolific researcher and entrepreneur. He's got a couple of companies, many patents. And here, most recently, he's been leading our efforts, working with Dr. Patty Reliu, Associate Dean for Research and Grad Studies, to form partnerships with the national labs. You've heard me talk about that before. And so most recently, Mohammed is the PI for a project involving a number of faculty here on the use of shape memory alloys, which are SART materials. So they go into one shape, and then once they're in place, you can use temperature to actually change those shape. And Mohammed has done it very successfully on the health side. So getting into one area of the health and then getting in the space, in the shape, to do what it needs to do within inside the human body. We're going to use it now for aerospace systems. And so pretty exciting work. And so we are looking forward to seeing the results of that. No, we're always thinking about our student success. And one of the things that we do really well is we launch careers not just in engineering, sometimes in other areas. So here is a bioengineering graduate of the College of Engineering, now pursuing medical school at the University of Toledo, and had a neat story with his internship at NASA. And so proud of that. Of course, you all know, remember that we have 10 researchers full-time at NASA Glenn's Research Center. So very proud of that. I'll talk a little more about that in a second. We had a couple mechanical engineering students doing a summer internship, or co-ops, these were, at in different space areas this summer too. So that you might have caught that in the news. And so again, it's just kind of neat when Angie Gorney and your colleagues in the Career Development Center, all wonderful staff, some are on this. And I said, Career Development Center, it is the Shah Center for Engineering Career Development. Forgive me for cutting that short. Anyway, so they've been placed and they did a nice thing and had a good story on it. So you can look at any of those that were in past UToledo news and Google it. And I guess last thing to share with you a little bit, my own story, but tomorrow, I'm very honored to be a speaker, to be invited panelist for this National Space Innovation Summit. And so if you can see there, I'll be one of the 3 panelists on a session called STEM Education and the Space Economy. And so if you want to sign in, it's free. So, and I'm not getting paid, so we can do a plug on that. But we're going to talk at 11 o'clock about this. And I think that is Eastern time. Yeah. So anyway, just wanted to share some of those things happening on campus. Very excited about what's going on. And so now I'm going to actually do one more slide just while I have it up, because then I'm going to take it down for a little bit. And I'm going to tell you introduce now, and then I'll take down the screen. Again, dear friends of the university, dear friends of Amy and I, Rash and Shilpa Shah, and we'll get to know them a little bit. And we'll start off with where they're born. And so I put this slide up to make it clear. There is Mumbai in India. And so with that, I'm going to take it down, if I can remember how to do that quickly. There it is. Okay, very good. So now I will bring Rash and Shilpa here. So thank you so much, friends, for joining us today. And so we'll start with you, Shilpa, I guess. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your family. So where were you born, where in Rash, and then how did you meet?
So I was born in India, but Toledo has been my hometown. Rash came to US and then he came back to India to get married. And that's how in 1980, I came over here. We got together in Mumbai, and we got married with an arranged marriage. And then I came here. We have 2 boys, Rishi and Suril. They are into, right now they are father. So they are into private equity. They are into boundary rail that Rash is doing, and they got married. They have, because of them, I got 2 beautiful daughter-in-laws. And now I used to think that my boys are the best boys, but now they are not there anymore. And I have 2 beautiful grandsons from each boys, and they are the best thing in the world right now for me. So that's what, as far as I'm concerned, I have a degree in microbiology, and then I did medical technology, but I am best at raising my family and helping Rash.
Very good. So let's unpack some of that. So first, thank you, Shilpa. That was great. So first of all, 41 years of marriage. Rash, I don't know. I mean, that sounds great, but is it going to last? I mean, come on. So no, 41 years, that's a great testament. And Amy and I have been inspired by your marriage, and you're well ahead of us, 35 years, but great stuff. And we just love it. And again, your boys. So I'm going to tease them a little bit because, they only went to Stanford. Cyril went to Stanford. Rishi went to Wharton, right? Graduated summa cum laude. So they're doing great things now with Riller Capital and the other Rishi's firm, high level positions. And I can only say, Rash, what would they have done if they had gone to MIT? That's my only question to you, I guess. No, I know you're very proud.
Dean of College of Engineering.
Right. So they're successful leaders following the footsteps of their father for sure. And we'll talk about Boundary Rail and the positions they play. But and then as Shilpa said, brought in two wonderful members of your family. I know Kate has a great company focusing on wellness with RMDY. People can Google that. Not that we're doing a commercial. And then Jen is an MD, right? As I recall, a physician.
Yes.
Very good. Anything else, Rash, you want to add about your family or your hometown or anything like that?
So Mike,
No, go ahead, Shilpa.
Mike, usually it is parents' job to brag about their kids, but you have already bragged about them, so we don't need to add any more.
And part of it is because I know I consider myself almost a part of your family because I was at Cyril's and Kate's wedding reception. That was such an honor, and Amy was shortly after we moved here, where I did meet Dick Anderson and some other neat things. So I was so honored to be there. So I did meet him, and of course I've had lunch at Inverness with Cyril and Rishi too. So I'm looking forward to meeting Jen sometime and the grandchildren. So yeah, sorry, I'm proud of your kids too, is because I'm proud of you. Rash, anything else there before we move on? Or actually, here's a question for you that you can answer about. What would you like the audience to know about India? It's a small world, but not small enough sometimes. So thoughts on that?
You want me to answer that?
Yes.
Both of you, yeah.
Usually India sometimes get portrayed in one dimension. It used to be snake charmers and peacocks, and now it is poverty, slums, overpopulation. That's all true. But India has a lot more to offer. Indians usually are so tolerant, content, and they have incredible hospitality of brotherly love that they show. And whenever you go to Indian's house, they will feed you, they'll welcome you, they'll feed you till your stomach bursts. And that they are showcasing their love for food and their culture. So India has a lot more to offer than just poverty and slums. And it is an ancient culture and value. And big part of that is the love thy neighbor. And in this right now in US, we see a lot of divisiveness. Maybe we can learn thing or two from the largest democracy. And that's what I want to portray India right now.
That's beautifully spoken, Shilpa. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Rash, anything to add about any of the conversations about the personal stuff, so to speak, family, before we start talking about your career?
Oh, just like everyone else, I'm very proud of my family. And, Shilpa really described India well. Today's India is a lot different than when I came here nearly 50 years ago. So I think a lot of things have changed, some for the good. I mean, many for good, some not so good. But overall, it has made a lot of progress in the last 50 years.
Very good. Well, let's talk about you coming to the U.S. from India in 1973. You got a bachelor's in mechanical engineering in 77. You got a master's in industrial engineering, as I recall, 82. And then later you got, in 1986, you got an MBA. So again, you feel like you're collecting degrees like some people collect Beanie Babies. But anyway, I guess maybe I'm guilty of that too. So we're proud of that you are alumnus 3 times over from the University of Toledo. Talk us about, I know there was a gap there, right? You left for a while after you graduated from engineering, but then you came back from the MBA. What was between when you first left UToledo? Where'd you go work?
So I graduated in mechanical and actually continued my studies in master's in mechanical engineering. But then I thought, I'm getting too specialized and really need to make a couple dollars. So look for a job, found a job in Chicago, got a job with a company called Sargent and Lundy Engineers. They were designing nuclear and fossil power plants at that time, and worked there and heard of a job about working there about 11 months. I heard of a job in Toledo, Ohio, applied for it, and the rest is history.
Great. So tell us about in your 41 years at Anderson's, which is not only a corporate partner of the College of Engineering, but such a storied employer and member of our community and here in Toledo. So tell us, what was your first job in, and just take us through, if you would, your career over those 41 years at the Andersons.
Great. Quickly, so I was hired as an entry-level engineer. I think I was actually a draftsman, and in those days we didn't have computer-aided design. And I think Tom Brady is on the call. He will know that we used to do drafting with set square and T square and all that. And really, from there, as company was growing, I started getting promoted and took on more and more responsibility. And for a while, I was managing all of company's engineering, maintenance, construction, procurement. And then things changed in 1988 when so for the rail industry, the genesis of the rail industry came from someone who worked for me, and a great guy. And he's the one who approached us and said, how would you like to repair rail cars? Because as part of my responsibility, we had a small fabrication business. And just like most people, I didn't know anything about rail cars at that point in time. But cars are made out of metal, steel, aluminum. And in my fab shop, we had skills to bend, cut metal. And we said, okay, if we can make conveyors and bucket elevators, we can repair rail cars also. From that simple idea, it all started. And we launched into not only repairing rail cars, but then we bought our first set of 100 cars that railroad was getting rid of and improved that. And we said, why don't we sell it and lease them to other people? And that's how we got into the leasing business. And so from that simple idea, by the time I left in 2018, we had about 25,000 cars and 30 repair shops all over US. And Anderson's actually became one of the top 10 operating lessors in North America for rail cars.
That's a great story, and I think you're humble, but as I recall, you've also said, as people have told me, that the rail group was one of the most profitable divisions at the Andersons, which says something a lot.
Yeah, so when you have a number of businesses in a company, there are times when some groups really kick in because of market conditions or whatever. And there were times when rail group was very profitable, and now they actually recently sold that unit.
Right. So that's part of the changes. People still talk about the Andersons closing there, how sad they were when they closed their retail stores. And I'm sorry I missed that because that was kind of famous. Well, that's great. So yeah, you've told me about Tom Anderson a lot, and it's neat when somebody, a leader mentors you and helps, unleashes you to do the things that you've done. So congratulations on all that you achieved at the Andersons. Any other thoughts on Tom Anderson or your time at the Andersons?
Yeah, no, I mean, for the most part, it was a family company, and the family name is still there. Company went public in 1996. Many of the Andersons, from the founder, who I never met, to his 6 kids, and they had 50 plus kids, know many of them and great relationship with them. It's a great company, and continues to do good things.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I'm looking forward, I think later next month, I'll see Julie Payoff, who is, of course, a long time with the Andersons and the mother of a ELI member, Engineering Leadership Institute member, Brandon. So I'll look forward to seeing them a little bit later. So let's just go back to that pivot, Rash. So you had the technical background, you had the MBA, and yet you saw that market opportunity. So tell us about what was going through your head and how you posed it to management, so to speak. And then also, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about the rail industry and how you saw that market opportunity.
Sure, it's kind of tough to exactly say what all the things happened back then. It's the proverbial fork in the road, and many of the decisions we made at that point in time turned out to be right. I remember the first job we did on 100 cars. we exceeded the capital budget by $1 million. And at that time, company's total capital spend was $5 million. So I took 40% of the company's capital spend. $1 million to spend, and I spent $2 million. That in itself might have killed the whole rail business, but one way or the other, it survived, and we continued to. I think the success to business is not only. I always tell my kids, and that was the only place success comes before work is in the dictionary, and so the success of the business, even though I was the face of the business, we had so many great people, so many are still there, and just one decision after the other. A good strategic plan is a series of good tactical decisions, and we made a lot of good tactical decisions and lived to the Anderson's mission of providing good customer service, and that's what really separated us, and we started making a mark in the rail industry. Let's speak a little bit about the rail industry you asked. So,
please.
To a lot of people, I jokingly say that most of the time we think about rail is when we are stopped at a crossing, we are late for a meeting or late for dinner or whatever. And generally, we are not using good words. We are using some choice four-letter words. The thing is, this is what I'll tell you, that how important rail is, not because I make a living doing that, but I bet you that the orange juice you drank for breakfast, to the eggs you had, to the car you drive, to the lunch you're going to have and the newspaper you read, everything at one point in time or the other was moved by rail. That's how important the rail industry is. And if you really think about the size of our country, 3,000 miles across, 2,000 miles up and down, with population on the coast, and a lot of our manufacturing and farming and all that happens in the middle of the country. All of these things have to move back and forth. And if it is not for the rail industry, it'd be very difficult, because rail is privately owned and all of the infrastructure is maintained, some government help, but not a lot of government help. Whereas if you look at our roads and byways and highways, they're getting not only clogged, where they weren't designed for the kind of traffic, but they are in bad repair. So if it wasn't for rail, we could have some serious traffic and other issues. So, and keep in mind, each rail car moves about 3.5 truckloads of stuff. And the one other thing about rail is, especially as we are talking about global warming and climate change and recycling and all that, rail uses 1/4 the energy to move a ton mile than truck. So that is the fuel efficiency, the green factor. But the other thing about rail, that you use a rail car for 50 years, and when you retire it, a rail car normally weighs about 60,000 pounds. Almost 59,800 pounds of that rail car is recyclable. So that is the green in terms of even what we are talking about now for the global warming and climate change. So rail is a very efficient and very green.
So that's great. Actually, I didn't know all that. I had heard some of it, but to cover that, Rash, that's very important. And I guess it's also very timely when you think about it. So we have obviously a big supply chain around the world. And yes, there's container ships, there's ships, across the sea, international shipping. But in the port, there's unloading. That's the issue. But part of the problem is trucking fleets are having trouble getting the drivers, right, and doing it. And rail is absolutely a big part of that, and people don't realize it. So I just, tie that in as well. It's very, very timely.
So trucks are very essential because they are, you can't do door to door with rail. Door to door can only be handled by trucks and vans. So that whole part of the supply chain is very important also.
Yeah.
But because we are having a shortage of truck drivers and because price of oil is now at $82 a barrel, rail continues to get more and more fashionable, if you will.
Very good. Can we do a little bit of, yeah, economical. Let's talk about your firm. Again, you're not looking for investors now, so we're not trying to put a plug for Boundary Rail, but let's do, if you don't mind, you shared some slides with me that I thought was great for helping people to understand the rail industry and the business, particularly the opportunity that you saw. So it's part of your story. It also happens to involve your sons, which is neat. So if it's all right, I'm going to pop up now the slides that you shared with Rash, and we'll go through that. Okay, so now do you see, am I showing your slide, rail industry freight movement?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
like I said earlier, that the only time we think about rail is when we are stopped at a crossing. But look at how big our country is and how this entire rail network is. Incidentally, there is about 4 million miles of roads in America, and 50,000 of that is the interstate highway. Think about 140,000 miles of rail that crosses the entire country. And so, as I said earlier, rail infrastructure, rail freight is very important. And so much foresight to our forefathers who did this many, many years ago, because the barriers to entry to build a new rail line today, if somebody gave you a blank check and said, build me a line from New York to California, impossible, with the millions of easement and all those issues that you will have. So it is good that we have this excellent infrastructure, which we are maintaining and continuing to really reap benefits of.
Let me advance slides here.
So this one is just, over the years, if you look at the number of shipments by rail continues to go down from 20 some million to 15 million. And the primary factor is the second line on the chart, coal, because we talked about global warming and clean energy and all that. Coal shipments, coal was a primary source of electricity in this country, and now a lot of it is nuclear. We still are burning a lot of coal, and a lot of good coal that is in the Powder River Basin we need to continue to use. But so coal traffic, if it is not for coal and grain, rail shipments continue to go down. So grain has been holding and going slightly up, but coal has gone down. So lot of things get shipped by rail, but those two are the primary one.
Yeah, I love how your story illustrates the nexus of energy and transportation, which is something that we don't, sometimes we separate them and they really shouldn't be.
So this is just, again, when we are stopped at a crossing, all these rail cars are going, they don't mean anything to us, and it didn't mean anything to me. There are so many different kinds of cars, but within these major categories, there are subcategories that really are designed to carry certain cargoes more efficiently from point A to point B. And so to a naked eye, it doesn't mean anything. They are all with the wheels underneath and some kind of box above it. But there is a lot of things that go into making a car that is specific to transport a certain product. So just wanted to give you a sense of that, or to our listeners.
Very good. And I was just, not to get too flippant on you, but for some reason, looking at this slide and the different type of cars reminds me of a time in my life. My son, who's now TJ, he was determined to be called Thomas because of Thomas the Tank Engine. Do you remember Thomas the Tank Engine? Yep. He would have loved to learn all about these different cars. Sorry, little digression as I just occurred to me.
No, there is. I think if you ask most kids, one of the things they had as a child, a toy, was something to do with rail.
Mm.
Yeah,
that's true. You're right. What's this one show? This slide.
So this one is just that illustrates that our industry is a very tight and compact industry. If you think about, there are only 1,200 customers. Now, each customer might do business with many people, but there are only 1,200 customers. How many businesses can say that they have that many customers? And then if you look at the top right corner where it says lessors, that's where when I worked at the Andersons, or now as part of my new company, that's where we play. And if you look at over 30 railcar operating lessors with varying fleets of 1,000 to 1,500, there are 32 NFL jobs. These are less companies than NFL teams that have the the size in the rail industry. So, and that's where we play, in the top right hand corner.
This is great. Like I say, learning things about the rail industry I had no idea.
Now, on each one of these, I can kind of expand, but I don't think we want to bore our listeners.
Okay, sure. Should I skip this one, or just?
The only thing I want to say is that if you look at the two bottom bars on each over the years, if you look at railroads used to own majority of the cars, and they have continued to own less and less, and that gap of their ownership or lack of is taken up by companies like myself or the Andersons, and that's why and I think this trend is going to continue. So at least for those who are in the business, this is a positive trend.
Very good. So I think our last slide is the team, right? The Boundary Rail team that you're at the helm of. What would you like to tell us about Boundary Rail?
Well, Boundary Rail is something I started after retiring from the Andersons. Mind was working, body is still working, and I said, why not launch something? That's something I have a lot of passion for. And so both the boys, having the business mind they have, from very young age at dinner table, there was always some conversation of, Dad, how was your day like, and what do you do, or that kind of thing. And I think my boys and my wife, I think, had a lot more confidence in my ability than I ever had. So for years, they were telling me to start something, which I didn't follow up on. But then after I retired, I said, okay, now is the time where I can take that step. So started it, launched it in 2019, both the boys, and now we have a full-time partner who is helping us, Joe Schwally, and with a young guy just like same age as my kids, but 15 years in the rail industry. And that same relationships and the same things that I used to do, we have continued to provide that to many of the people that over the years I associated with. And I'm proud to say that in 2 short years, we have built up a small fleet. It's not still anything significant, but we still have a lot of aspirations and dreams. So that's what Boundary Rail is.
Very good. Thank you. Shilpa, any thoughts on your husband started as an entrepreneur, as Dr. Norm Rapino, our director of entrepreneurship here in the college and at UToledo. Rash was an entrepreneur, right? He was innovating, exploring new markets at the Andersons, and now he's an entrepreneur. He's got a startup. What's it been like to marry to a guy like that who is always pushing the envelope?
Oh man, don't go there.
Well, let me just say a little bit that behind every successful man is a woman. And yeah, we have our ups and downs, and it was affecting the family life too. But what he's doing, I'm very proud of. And he has a name in rail industry, and he is just enjoying what he's doing right now in retirement. And at least he's out of my hair.
Very good.
That's it. I don't have any.
So a successful family business, again, a lot of people would say to have a business that they feel good about with their sons, and I know you all collaborate very well. So Anyhow, let's change now to a little bit and talk about your role in the Toledo region, because you all have done some great things, both in the region and out. So Shilpa, I'll start with you. I know you've tutored in the Toledo Public Schools, so thank you for that service. That's important. And I remember when I was asking about service, you said a very meaningful experience for you too was when you took Cyril and Rishi and spent a month at Mother Teresa's mission. So that's neat. So thank you for that. Rash, you've got, again, you a little bit of an overachiever here in a lot of ways. If I can recall, your past board memberships in the Toledo region was you were chair of the Mercy Health, right, Foundation, as I recall, Mercy Health Board. You were chair of the United Way Board. I think you're still on the United Way Board. You're still on the Toledo Zoo. You were vice chair of the Regional Growth Partnership, very important from a business side. You were past chair of the Owens Community College Foundation. But when I remember we talked about what you're most proud of was that Federal Reserve Advisory Board. So tell us about any of those, but including particularly that Federal Reserve Board of Cleveland role.
Yeah, I think, I'll just say that thanks for no need to do that, but it is a lot of good causes out there that I think regardless of one's title or position, we all can contribute, help. A lot of these organizations are looking for people who have the skills that they can help them with. So just it is great to be associated with so many of these organizations and make some kind of contribution, But yeah, the Federal Reserve is that the U.S. Federal Reserve, there are so many Federal Reserve within United States, 9, 15, I've lost the count, but the Cleveland Federal Reserve, the president of that who sits on the Federal Open Committee, when we decide every 2 months what the market rates are going to be or the interest rates are going to be and whatnot. And that each Federal Reserve, they have a series of business advisory committees. They have their own board, but they have a business advisory committee. They take the pulse of what people are feeling out there, because sometimes the amount of information coming to them could be filtered. They want to go to the people who are really in the trenches and doing the hiring and investing in capital and new plants and whatnot. And so that was great. I was chosen to do that and served on that for 3+ years. And that was pretty neat to see how our whole economy works. And there are so many PhDs at the Federal Reserve in Cleveland who will put on some presentations and whatnot. And I think I gained a lot more than I gave, but nonetheless, it was an honor.
That's neat. That's neat. And I got to think there's some people who are like, hey, he's on the Toledo Zoo board. That's great, because what a asset that is for this area. Amy and I are members, and in fact, looking forward to, I know they have Thanksgiving lights and then Christmas lights. So thanks for your work on the zoo.
Absolutely.
But let's pivot a little bit to more again, Toledo, but thinking, I know what's important to you and Shilpa is your, I guess, service and like I say, giving and getting from the Indian community in the Toledo area. And I don't know much about it. I know that you've been a mentor to me, Rash, but another mentor I've had is Nagi Naganathan, the former dean here for so many years. And I know the Indian community was important to him. What can you tell us about it? And what is it meaningful to, how can we understand what that community means for its members?
Go ahead, Shilpa.
Well, it's the Indian community over here is basically engineers and doctors, and a lot of them are graduates of the University of Toledo, and they have also taken internships, and they were also at the MCO, original MCO is University of Toledo Medical School. So they are proud member of this community. We have a beautiful Hindu temple here. We have also India Association over here that for non-religious purpose, and it is a beautiful thriving community which will like to help, and they do help Cherry Street Mission, or there are so many different causes that they help throughout the year. So we have lots of Indian restaurants here. If you like Indian food, you can go there. And anytime if anyone wants to visit the University of, I mean, uh, want to visit the Hindu Temple of Toledo, I'll be a good guide.
Very good. Rash, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think she did a good job.
Very good. Well, let's talk about UToledo, another local service. Very proud of what you've done, very grateful for what you've done. I know that you were a member of the engineering visiting advisory boards. I asked you to be on it, but you serve with NAGI. That's the colleges, that's the dean's special advisory board. So thank you for the strategic analysis and perspective you shared with me and other leaders in the college. That's very important. You are a member of the University of Toledo's Foundation Board, so that's important for stewarding our resources there. I know you have been a member of the Engineering Development Committee, again, giving me some advice on that. But I think, if I may say, what I'm most happy for, and what's most maybe salient, is that you and Shilpa stepped up and gave a naming gift for our Career Development Center. So every time when I walk in the building, there is on the wall, I should have had an image to show, beautiful, the Shah Center for Engineering Career Development. So thank you for that. What the heck were you thinking? I know you started talking about this naming gift with NAGI, and I was the one who luckily was the one when it happened. Tell us what's led to you to be so generous to UToledo, and particularly that Shah Center for Engineering Career Development.
I think I'm glad to do it. It is not that generous. I'm happy to do it. This is what I'll tell you, that I came to America with absolutely nothing in my pocket. And College of Engineering, University of Toledo, the town of Toledo, they have played a big role in who I am and making me successful. And it was just my way of giving something back. And I hope and wish that I continue to do more of that.
Great. Shilpa, what did you think when maybe Rash first brought up this idea, or your idea, that you're going to have your name on an engineering career development center?
Well, I think that education is a very important part, and it plays a big role in one's development. And also, I believe in. I wanted to stand behind Rash, but also I am a beneficiary of what University of Toledo has done, not directly but indirectly, because of all this education and because of engineers and doctors in this community, they have trained them and they have retained them, and these people have done good for the Toledo economy. They are employed here, and they have done good for Toledo economy, and because of them, Toledo and this area is growing, and so am I. So it is important to give it back to the society, because Toledo has done a lot for us, like Rash said, and it is time for us to give it back.
Great. Well, thank you. You've been inspiring in that. And not only, have you enabled us to do some special gifts and special opportunities. Angie Gorney, the director of the Shah Center, is exploring some international co-ops for ours. But at the same time, you're also very much caring and affirming of our wonderful staff. So Angie Gorney, we were just recently, you've taken all of them out to lunch at Inverness, and we're talking about doing that again. So thank you for that. They feel very much affirmed, and I know some of them are on the call today. And I just got to remind everybody, if you think of what makes University of Toledo College of Engineering so great, so different, it absolutely is our co-op experience, right? We have a integrated co-op, 3 required. Many of our students do 4. Once they get in there and our employers see their work ethic, they just got to keep coming back. And so it's launching their career. It's almost, many of them go to work permanently for the firms that they co-opt for. For many of our students, it helps them get through college. So Rash's story was, if you recall, he finished up his master's here, had to go earn some money in Chicago before he could come back again his MBA. That same pattern is true for a lot of our students. They actually need the co-op to let them come back to college. Even though we have very affordable tuition, we're very, very accessible here and generous scholarships, there's still students who need that. And so I'm so happy that the co-op is able to let them, persist and be successful here and graduate. And I'm so thankful for Rash and Shilpa for making that center even stronger than it's been. And I got to put a plug in for Matt Franchetti, the associate dean. Dr. Franchetti works very well with that. So we're thankful for his leadership working with Angie. So,
Mike, I'll just echo the thing about co-op. I think that is the best thing College of Engineering has done. I wish that 40 years ago when I went to school, we had that, and don't know where the career would have then gone to, but nonetheless, to come out of college with some debt and everyone saying you don't have any experience, what a great thing co-op does. Yes, it adds a year or year and a half to your studies, but most of our students come out with a job in hand and less debt. So fantastic. Hats off to you and your entire staff for doing that.
Yeah.
Co-op, great.
Thank you. Well put. And, the fact is we have, before the pandemic, we have like 180 employers who would come just to hire our co-op students and our grads, just in the College of Engineering, which is really something. So clearly we are supplying the workforce, and you can be sure that when I speak tomorrow at that Space Innovation Summit, then I'm going to talk about how co-ops are wonderful in our relationships. We also have those corporate partners, right? We have 21, 22 of those, and we really appreciate the support they give us. And it's not just financial support, it's also the idea of helping us with curriculum, right? So you're on the college advisory board, but each department has an advisory board, and corporate partners are on that. Corporate partners also come and speak to our students, and that's important to share the real world field experience. So we're all fans, I know, of the co-op program, which is neat. I saw, if I may, Rash and Shilpa, I saw a question just come in that is from Scott Steele, a former corporate partner with PTI. And so he said, tell us more about India. If one were to travel there, what's the one thing you must see? That's a great question.
Well, I will go to Rajasthan, and Taj Mahal. Everyone has heard about Taj Mahal and Agra. So obviously, and it is right there in the northwest portion of India. So I will go to Rajasthan, which is the state of lots of architecturally wonderful palaces and the carvings and everything, and obviously Taj Mahal. It all depends on how much time you have, because India is a vast country with very different ethnic diversity. So, but Rajasthan is something that I will definitely go to.
Great.
Hey, Scott, if you're listening, let's grab a beer someday, and I'll be happy to tell you more.
Yeah. So when's the last time you used to go, once a year, I think, before the pandemic? And Rash, let me express my condolences again. I know you lost your father recently, but still have lots of family there. So will you be returning, hopefully, once this pandemic is over, for your annual visits?
We are actually itching to go this January.
Okay, fingers crossed that can happen.
But it all depends on what happens here and there in terms of the numbers and cases, and as we go through winter. So yeah.
Very good. Well, we've got about
you can take a boy out of India, but you can't take India out of him.
I agree. Very good. So I hope to get there someday myself. It's on Amy and I's bucket list. We have not been able to get there, but someday, with the traveling you would be awesome. So if anyone else has a question, go ahead and add it to the chat, and we'll look at that. And We've got just about 3 or 4 more minutes before we need to let Jen Hall come back in, step in and wrap us up. But anything else while we're waiting to see if any questions come in? Rash, any advice for engineering students today that you'd like to share, thinking about it based on your experiences?
I just, like I said, I'm biased to engineering, but whatever field you are in, just finish your studies, at least come out. And I think but that in itself will separate you from many of the job applicants having a college degree. And not that college degree is a ticket to everything, but if you have started, finish it. And I think it will pay its share of dividends over your lifetime.
Very good. Shilpa, any advice you have for our students, engineering or otherwise?
Well, Rash always says that work hard and the success always comes after work. It only comes before in dictionary, but afterwards, after working hard, you will get success. So education is very important, and work hard and be successful.
Very good. I guess I'll just close by, again, thank you so much. And I know Jen will do the same. I have to say, this world is getting smaller, and we tell our students, everyone needs a multicultural perspective. We're all global citizens, and many of us will go work globally. And so one of the neat things about the Toledo area that I like so much is we are a multicultural center. Even though we're in the Midwest, we have a large population of Indian, very large Middle Eastern, and it's been just my privilege. And I've been enriched by the time I've spent with you, the time I've spent with my other faculty and alumni who just come from a different background than me. And that's what makes UToledo so strong. And that's what makes Toledo, the region, so strong. So thank you for all that you do for us, the college, the university, and this region, and for being with us today. So Jen, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, one last thing, Mike.
Yes,
sorry, Jen.
No?
Thanks for having us. And I hope in some way this was useful. So thanks for making this happen.
Oh, very good. Of course. Thank you. And Cyril and Rishi, I do hope to sit down and break some bread before too long. When you're back in, your dad will tell me and we'll all get together. Jen, thank you again for your idea, for initiating this series, and for all the work you do. And Bethany Stalter, also want to thank you for the great work that you've done in helping to put us together at the foundation. So thank you, Bethany. But take it away, Jen.
Oh, sure. My pleasure. I mean, as we close, I'd just like to thank, Rash and Shilpa. I'm so grateful that you shared a glimpse into your lives. You're both such an inspiration, and your enthusiasm really is contagious. And this town hall was so enjoyable. I knew it would be. And of course, so informative and so memorable. And of course, I would like to thank Dean Toole, who consistently makes moderating look easy. I swear you could do this full time. And a big thank you to each of you in our virtual audience for making time to join us today for this town hall. I always enjoy seeing each and every one of your names, and we genuinely appreciate your ongoing interest and your support. We do hope you'll continue to join us for future town hall events. We're so very excited to announce what we have planned. So stay tuned. We're going to change things up a little bit. And if you have specific ideas on what you'd like to see, or if you'd simply like to connect with the college, feel free to reach out to me directly. My information is on the foundation website, and it'll also be in the follow-up email that you'll receive after this town hall. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.